just phone calling somebody or just talking to people about it. Do you think, and anyone can take the question, do you think there's any way, where we all partner together? Because the fact of the matter is, there's so many different things. After a while, people's heads start to explode. Is there any way for us to partner together so that, okay, if I'm speaking to you on Planned Parenthood, then I go, oh yeah, and I'm going to speak to you about net neutrality at the same time, so people can kind of partner together two different issues at once and then go out into the world and do double the duty, I guess, basically the way. And some way to get people connected up that way. So have you all heard of anything like that, or seen anything like that, or thought about anything like that?
I thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's doable. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you first and then I'll follow you.
At this point, I'm not sure it's doable, but my hope is, and don't scream at me, with the new DNC chair and vice chair, that the DNC will get reorganized, and I think it could come from them. Because we're seeing right now, there are so many things we need to do. We're overwhelmed with it, and that's why certain groups are concentrating and focusing on an issue that means a lot to them. But there's just a lot to do, and I don't know if we can. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations are very comfortable doing coalition work, and I think all of us have done coalition work. I think the problem for us is the public is not used to being inundated with 15 priorities all at once. I think we're desperate in the idea of this is really important coming for a vote next week, for example. But I know people are reading about how the National Endowment of Arts is being destroyed, how NPR and public broadcasting is destroyed, and how the president, may have released his own tax return to buy a day off from media. I think our challenge is just the public's capacity to absorb all this information and sift through it, and it's hard to pierce the noise in that sense.
What we are doing is teaching the public to call their member of Congress.
Yeah.
That document Indivisible has been a shockwave and spawned chapters. There's like 60 of them, new clubs that have started, new organizations that have started in San Francisco based on that document. There are official Indivisible groups in cities. I go to the San Francisco one. They were getting 200 people a week going to their meetings, 100 newcomers, and then 100 people that had been before. It's begun to sort of dwindle down, but that document, if you haven't read it, just Google Indivisible. And it's a document written by some former congressional staffers, and to inform people what's the best way to affect change with your member of Congress. Because right after the election, we were all hearing, send postcards. I had people saying that I'm calling the Speaker of the House every day. I'm calling his office, or I'm calling Mitch McConnell every day. It doesn't work with that way. They don't give a crap. They won't tell you that when they call. They'll be very polite to you, but it doesn't count for anything. All members of Congress, and senators and members of Congress, care about one thing: being reelected. They care about their constituents, and if they don't, they're going to end up like Eric Cantor, who was so impressed with himself that he was going to take over being Speaker, he forgot to go home and visit the constituents, and he lost his primary. And that was a perfect proof of that. So if we've done nothing else, we've triggered the public to call the member of Congress, and it could be on any issue. I am motivated by something Nancy Pelosi often says, is don't agonize, organize. There are probably too many groups organizing. I see that now. There's probably, I don't know how many are deciding they're going to go to Modesto and take over, is it CD10? And the people there are already going, wait a minute, we don't want 200 people showing up every weekend unannounced. But it's going to sort out. There's just, right now, people are so panicked, they don't know what to do. And they're racing around in all directions, but I do think some of it will coalesce at some point.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So, has anybody considered a phone bank? And what I specifically mean by that, in the context here is, I'm actually not a citizen, I'm a permanent resident. I grew up in New Zealand, and one of the things that I did back there is I ran a procurement service for nonprofits. So I collect together insurance plans, phone plans, electricity plans, and as a buying group, you're able to negotiate better prices and lower the overheads of all the different parties. And so what I'm thinking for this scenario, you've got a number of groups who perhaps might be categorized as single issue oriented. And I'm wondering if you could create a, for lack of a better term, a document or agreement that says, look, we're super passionate about this thing, and we're going to call X amount of hours, right? Or X number of phone calls as a group on this specific issue. If you help us by also calling to an equivalent amount, then 2 months from now, when your issue comes up, we're going to step in and follow through and make phone calls on the behalf of your specific issue, and use that sort of binding document as an agreement to sort of galvanize the collectives, so that single individual groups oriented towards single issues, in pursuit of those single issues and the strengthening of the collective action around those issues, are willing to go that extra step further and not just call for an hour this month, but maybe for an hour over the next 2 months, so that the groups who are would be making the calls on those months are going to help out this month, right? So it's like an hour, it's like a phone call for a phone call, or an hour for an hour, however you want to measure that. But it's effectively an agreement to let multiple groups of individuals with different agendas participate for the purpose of their own agendas, if that makes sense. Has anybody considered, is anybody doing that?
I would just say, I think that's a very interesting idea, and I'd be interested to hear some of the other people's panelists speak on that. But Planned Parenthood, we do understand that all issues are intersectional, and that immigration is important to us, and economic justice and environmental justice and criminal justice are all very important to reproductive justice. We do participate in a lot of like cross-sectional actions. So, I mean, although the ACA is very in line with our issue right now, I mean, we did participate with SEIU doing patch-through phone banks, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. So that's something that we are interested in doing more of, and I think, you know, if we have the people, we don't have the space, right? So,
and we are going to start doing patch-throughs soon.
Yeah,
in San Francisco.
And yeah, so we definitely want to like continue doing stuff like that.
You triggered an idea, because I think groups are pretty tied to their fundraising, their volunteers, their base, and maybe not as open, but what if there was someone that had a phone bank, as you suggested, and it was a place people could come that are frustrated, angry, fearful, they want to do something, and you could patch them into ongoing phone banks on different issues. You could be a resource for those.
And I want to be conscious of the airtime on my half, because I know there's a lot of questions in the room. There's a way to have that be distributed so that you have a system that calls the would-be from caller, patches them through a voice over IP system, and then calls the person they're supposed to be calling automatically. So all the person has to say is like, yeah, 7 p.m. I'm good. And instead of having to rely on that person to turn up at 7 p.m. to a specific place, or even like remember at home after dinner and make that phone call, their phone just gets a call. And then it says, hey, remember how you said you're going to do this thing? And then 10 seconds later, they're calling whoever. And it just, the patches work together.
I think you got a good idea, and I'd love you to get started on it. My theory is if someone's got a great idea, go out and do it. And you may start something. You may be a seed. I don't mean just you, but put it out there. Because we're open to all kinds of new ideas. We are somewhat mired in our systems. But if a new idea comes up and someone starts it, there's something called Flippable. That and sister swing cities. Alec, what was what?
Or swing left?
Swing left, it's sister cities, and flippable. Again, all pretty much wanting to do the same thing. And that is, we know we need to take over state governments so we can take back Congress before redistricting in 2022. And so these are all looking at, right now, there's only a few special elections coming up. And unfortunately, everybody's trying to call in there because they want to do that. There was one in Delaware a few weeks ago, and the campaign made an arbitrary decision to not allow any out-of-state fund banks anymore because too many people, the voters were getting too many calls, and it was turning off the voters. So there's one in Georgia for Tom Price's seat. It's, and so a lot of people are calling there right now. And then there was one in Montana. I don't know if people are calling that, but later this year it's going to open up. We've got state elections in New Jersey and Virginia. Governor all the way down the whole state. There you're going to have a lot of capacity for people to make calls. And then the next year we're going to have the 2018 midterms.
Thanks, Susan. I'd like to get Don, excuse me, I've got it good, and Ernesto for Electronic Frontier. How does that sound as an idea for you all? Because some people may not know about Electronic Frontier. They like what happens as a result of the advocacy that's done, but they may not know about you to go and make calls to Congress people or to local officials or just to people to let them know what's happening.
Yeah, I think what we kind of do is try to actually synchronize with other organizations. So like so we have our own, call tool, and then if there's a general action, and I'll give an example of this in action, we all agree on the day we all launch simultaneously. So there isn't one master system, but because we are all trying to activate our group simultaneously, there's this like chorus that happens together. So an example of kind of this intersectionality that was mentioned. We're a civil liberties organization. We think about how to protect people's private information from government, especially when government oversteps its bounds. And we recognize off the bat, since this president came into power, if you're Muslim or if you're Latino and you have a mixed citizenship family or anything, you're going to be surveilled by this government, right? They're going to invade your home, or they're going to invade your school, or they're going to invade your workplace to try and find you. And that is a core mission to us. And so we've reached out to a lot of kind of the Muslim organizations, Muslim American organizations, a lot of the immigrant rights communities, and supporting this bill, SB 54, in the legislature, which is called the California Values Act. It's new territory for us because we've never done anything in terms of immigration policy, but we recognize there is an obviously direct intersection when you target vulnerable communities, that once the government builds the tools to do that, those tools don't disappear tomorrow, right? And those tools get turned on someone else later. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of been our solution to this like master list, is just trying to synchronize with other organizations and just pick the, kind of coordinate in that respect.
Don?
I'm kind of going to flip back to your question. Some groups we can work with, some we can't. But it's easy for us to work with Planned Parenthood. In fact, a number of years ago, when there used to be ballot initiatives attacking Planned Parenthood by, the right to, with Daryl Issa, Mr. Auga, you know what I'm talking about? He made his fortune with car alarms. They go, Auga. Anyway, and so we used to send people to their phone banks. You got an office on Van Ness?
We used to have one on Eddie.
Eddie, okay. So that we can work with. We can work with Black Lives Matter groups, because many people have heard that once every 28 hours a black person is shot by a cop or a white renegade. But what they don't know is every 28 minutes a black person dies from lack of health care in this country. Because you don't see it. There's no blood. I mean, there may be blood, but people die just quietly in a hospital. And it's because they don't have health insurance of some form because of that. We've worked with tenants groups because homelessness is a big factor in healthcare, and we can tie it into our healthcare gig. Some things we can't work with. we would have a hard time working with Clinton supporters because she attacked single-payer health care, and I would contend lie vigorously about it. And then she had her daughter go out and lie about it. So we would have a hard time working with them on this question.
But you could work, what you're saying is that there are some groups you could work with and some groups
Yes,
you can't.
that's
and
what
that could possibly be across the board, if I may interject in there. And for criminal justice, Rafael, do you think there's any way you could work together? It's a civil liberties, it's civil justice.
There's a number
The
of,
American way, you know, truth, justice, and the American way.
well, the ACLU is very big on this, but locally, but the big thing I think people should try to do is to just, the major issue is to stop the death penalty, period. You know, that I think is something that we can do. And the other issues that happen in the criminal justice system are really just local, given that the national issue is going to be very bleak. And so I think that, you know, so I think California has done the most, and it could do more, but we've implemented mandatory prison reductions, and that's been happening. We've saved money on that, and there is more community-based diversion type projects in the state that are funded. Drug treatment programs that are mandatory as part of the sentencing schemes. And a whole evaluation based upon need and recidivism, so it's a different practice. But not every county in California participates fully. And that's a problem. Counties can opt out. And so counties have to, everybody has to do this, if it's going to work. It's just not prison is the answer. You have to do some intervention. The best, I mean, in my opinion, it's the the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice and the Public Defenders Association of California, the National Association for Criminal Trial Lawyers also are just big organizations, and we always embody these type of ideas. Those are all mainly lawyer-based type of things, but we also rely on understanding what the problem groups are, and that's what the Southern Center for Human Rights and the any type of things like that. There's no organization really that does that I know of that really advocates for prison reform or criminal justice reform. It's really the ACLU, and it comes from you're moving the local elected public defender, which is only one. So that's the political movement here. It's not a popular movement. Mr. Obama was not a popular. He wasn't in favor. I mean, he wanted some criminal justice reform. He tried to do it at certain levels. It just doesn't. It's not popular. It's very difficult to pass. So, but the ACLU would support those.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that idea about the phone bank also. This gentleman here had a question.
Yes, I had a question. Coming from the outside of organized groups, the thing that has been clear in the last months is that we have a lot of opportunities for action. I never seen so many in the last 25 years, probably, in this anti-authority. So there is, one can go to meetings or phone bankings or marching or showing up twice a day. The thing that concerns me a little bit is, and I think is transpired a little bit, is a lack of a progressive platform. And I see all these activities, but for example, when you come, at the same time I'm thinking, well, it's true we don't have the White House, but the Democrats have had the majority in California for, what is it, 12 years or 8 years. They're the absolute majority, and where is a progressive platform? And why we're not making progress, I'm not going to make the list of a variety of issues, from healthcare, from access to education, free universities, you can name it. And I'm frankly a little bit worried, and that's where I want a little bit of your feedback, that we are all going to be reacting to Trump because he's horrible. We are going to do all our phone calls and whatever and feel really good about that. But where is the beef? Where is the thing that is going to project a different idea, as opposed to just reacting and phone calling. Phone calling is good, but I found myself making a lot of phone calls to people, for people that I don't really know, and I'm not really even sure what their agenda is, and it's very hard to make phone calls every week to different persons. So I wonder, I heard something about healthcare, criminal justice system, I'm worried because Obama, correct me if I'm wrong, deported 2.5 million illegal aliens during his term. And he decided in the last 3 months to decrease, sentences for 1,600 people. That's really not very much, frankly.
It's nothing.
And I'm just wondering, and the question I think is, where is it progressive? Where do we knock?
You knock,
as public.
in my opinion, you knock on your local assemblyman or your senator door, and you keep them honest. The problem is the Democratic Party itself. With the Democratic majority in this state, we still can't get single payer. Okay, it's exactly the point. Okay, we still can't. We still can't end the death penalty. Okay, we barely touched and helped, and made this optional in terms of having some options to incarceration and diversionary type of ideas for people. Okay, treatment versus incarceration, and that's even being met with some resistance. So you do have to keep your Democratic senator or representative true to the values that we promote, and that's what has to happen. So because the Democratic Party is just not, it's not enough progressives. They are really just corporate Democrats. We got to take money out of the system.
I think I have to respond to what you just said. The Democratic Party is not a monolith. And we have, like in this room, a new Democrat delegate right here.
Actually, Rafael's a delegate.
And you too? Okay, both of you, sorry. Our delegates.
And Susan.
And Susan has been, but not new. Susan's not new. I was a delegate for 10 years. But the point I'm trying to make is that Bernie Cracks, whatever you call them, you two guys, not Susan and me, we're old guys, many years, are new blood in the California Democratic Party. Not quite a majority, but new blood, and that's some hope. And I think part of messaging isn't just bash the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is a bunch of people, 3,000 roughly, in the state of California are delegates. 2,000 of those meet once a year. They're going to meet in Sacramento in May. He's going to be there, you're probably going to be there. We should give a hopeful message, I think, about politics.
Okay,
well,
I'm totally down with the hopeful message.
I want to add,
but the reality is that the party has failed us.
Okay.
No, and
I would like to
I have to add to this. Sorry, I feel very passionate about this as being a former dean staffer and having spent 9 years afterwards working for the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives for Congress, and then doing consumer advocacy for a number of years after that. The unfortunate thing, I think it's too negative to say that. I think it needs to be a practical message, which is if you don't like what's happening, do something about it. And because that's what we did. When you look at when Howard Dean ran for president, the idea of us even expanding healthcare to the 20-some million people that got it under the Democratic Congress and President Obama was unheard of. That was called crazy. That was called, there is no way we're going to spend that kind of money. And it's the persistence and understanding that you have to organize, you have to fight, you have to take over the party and move it to the direction you want it to be to get to that point. Because when President Obama became president, the stage was set to give them a Congress that at least got them as far as ACA is. The future is still bright as long as we know we can keep moving. It's the overturn window, right? We have to keep moving forward, not talk about how terrible the establishment is today, rather than we have to take over the establishment. I worry about that message because I think that turned off a lot of people from voting in this election, and they're going to need 4 hard years to learn. Well, okay, like there's 59 to 62 million people who voted for Donald Trump. And you got more votes than Mitt Romney, and I think circular firing squad, while that's happening, is very dangerous. We have to think about how do we build up and start anew, not so much, relitigate the problems.
Well, you have to learn from your messages from the
I want to
past.
make
Right.
one very important point.
But
I'm not supporting ACA because I think it's the greatest thing in the
Right.
world. When Obama got elected and we did have that majority, we tried our damnedest to get it was our chance. We had to take out the public option in order to get it passed. The object was to get over that first hurdle and continue to improve it and work on it. We're trying to save it now so we don't roll backwards. The other point was Mark Leno, state senator that was just turned out, tried his darndest to get a health care bill in Sacramento. He couldn't get it out of committee. So San Francisco is the home base, I call it, of the uber progressives. And I love us. But the rest of the state is not like us. And there are conservative Democrats in Sacramento that have to be persuaded and talked to. So it sounds wonderful to say, we're going to march in and take over the party. I think you are all right. You have to contact your member of Congress, make sure they know where you stand, have meetings with them, and keep working at it. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you want to change the party, let's do it. I'm with you on that.